Well, sometimes you get lucky. It is the greatest road win in the history of regular season NBA. Last night, Chris Finch and the T-Wolves. First time ever a team is trailed by over 20 entering the fourth and won, and you scored 41 points in the fourth against the number one rated defense. So I want, when you go into the fourth quarter, you were Belichick meets Andy Reid meets Red Auerbach. What do you tell a team you're getting housed against an excellent team? What did you tell your team?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think you have to have that competitiveness in you,
right.
You know, and we have a lot of competitors, and our team's fighting, and we've had a couple comebacks like that. Not quite as
right.
big, but
you've been in a lot of close games.
Yeah, we've been in a lot of clutch games. But it was really the young guys, so the rookies who brought us back into that game. And sometimes you just need that young energy. It's the third time we played Oklahoma City in 4 games. We played them the night before. And so just they brought the juice and made a couple plays. And full disclosure, Colin, I had about 10 minutes on the clock. We were down 19. I was almost going to pull the 2 remaining starters. And then I thought, let me just see what happens here over the next minute or so. And then I think we got an and one and kind of cut it to 16. And then you think, well, maybe we'll see, you know, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
So J-Mac has been on this all season. He has been on this all season. I defend SGA. I defend Karl Malone. I defend James Harden. I don't think you get that whistle in the playoffs. And I think that's problematic. You Karl Malone didn't, Harden didn't, SGA won't. But there are players that do create contact. Luka, by the way, is phenomenal at it. But you obviously feel strongly about this. Were you sending a message? What was that for?
I mean, first of all, thanks for bringing it to the attention of everybody. But more to the point, it's like they're a very physical defense, which is, I mean, they've done a great job building their defense there. They swarm you. And there's an adage when you're playing defense, like, hey, if we're physical and we're fouling all over the place, they're not going to be able to call them all.
That's Jerry Sloan with the Jazz, the late Jerry Sloan.
Yep.
We'll just be so physical they can't blow the whistle all night.
And all credit to the league, you know, about a year ago, they decided that they were going to allow more physicality into the game.
And I kind of liked it.
We like it too, and we're a defensive team, and we benefit from that. But then, and when you have a player on the other end, Shea, who is so crafty and so hard to guard, and he's able to slow the game down in a way where everything's focused on him, so all the contact is kind of accentuated. It is a very tough mental, you know, trap that you have to fight through with your players, because you want to be able to match physicality when the game is physical, and you can't do it around a player like Shea because he's so crafty.
Well, there are certain players. Jokic is one, SGA is one, and Luka is one. It doesn't matter what the pace of the game is.
Yes.
They play to their pace.
Yeah. I mean, the guy selling popcorn is selling popcorn at their pace. You know?
Everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ant's an interesting player. So Ant, I was surprised today. I knew he was like top 10. He leads the NBA in three-point shots made. And I've complained about this. I want Ant being dynamic. I also understand, like Wemby's shooting, to me, too many threes. Yeah. But I understand the game and the analytics. As a coach, what is the dividing line, the line in the sand on, okay, I want you to shoot threes, but you can beat guys off the dribble and be dynamic. Do you fight with that?
Well, I think I get asked this question a lot. Like, what's the number of threes you'd like, ideally like Anthony to shoot? I don't really have a number. I just want good ones. And he's done I think largely the ones he's taken this year are good. He came into the season trying to up his volume because as crazy as it may sound, I think for the first time he gained full confidence in his shot. He's always been able to make it. And we've always been preaching, hey, this is something you really do. You need to trust it more. Yeah. And I think he started the season on such a hot streak that he kind of relied on it maybe a little too much.
Right.
And then since Christmas time, he's really gone back to attacking more. I love his shot balance right now. He's attacking more. His free throws are up as a result, but yet he's still shooting good shots and making them at a high clip. So I think he's, kind of mastered it right now.
Yeah.
We've seen a few more of the Anthony dunks and spectacular plays going to the rim in the last month and a half.
You didn't want to necessarily move off Cat, but it's the CBA, it's the reality. So you bring in Julius Randle, a little ball-centric for me, but he's a bit more of an initiator that can get Ant good looks. Yeah. Karl Anthony Towns isn't.
Yeah.
So it works out.
Yeah.
But the new CBA, I mean, here's my theory on the Luka trade, and you tell me if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. My theory is it was different when you pay a guy $35 million. So a billionaire goes, that's a lot of money, but quarterbacks in the NFL are making 60. If I got to pay a guy $75 million, now it's like, well, that's more than Patrick Mahomes. That's double Josh Allen. That's double what LeBron made in his prime. I'm going to consider everything. Mm-hmm. Conditioning's bad defensive player. So I didn't buy it was just Nico, the GM. My take is this new CBA, the Stars won, but I think billionaire owners now are like, wait. $75 billion is a number that is so punitive if the player's hurt or isn't in condition. So my take is the players think they won, the Stars. But I think billionaires look at that number and think that is double Aaron Judge. Mm-hmm. And they play twice our games. And that went into the Luka trade.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. I think now in the new CBA landscape, you really have to decide, obviously who you're going to marry going forward. There's amazing talent. Luka's an amazing talent. And that's their decision. I'm not going to comment too much on that.
But he'd been hurt a lot.
Yeah, but I also think when you get to this point with these salaries, it really limits your ability to continue to construct teams around that star without it being further punitive with the double apron and now just being able to escape those areas of the CBA to kind of readjust, which is what we had to do, right, so we could continue to build around Anthony.
Yeah, you had to move Karl Anthony Towns,
and so it's like the tax code right now. I mean, trying to figure out the tax code. I mean, it's so complicated, and a lot of these teams are now having to kind of pivot quickly to set themselves up for 4 and 5 years down the road, which is, an interesting place to be when you're roster building.
I want to throw this at you that before I kept saying about a month ago, just get Jimmy Butler with Steph. Mm-hmm. I don't care what analytics say. He has the emotional intelligence. He'll work with Draymond and Steph and Kerr. Is that if you're a little squirrely or young, it won't work there. And that he's intense, but it'll work. And it has worked. Mm-hmm. So I want you to talk about this. Julius Randle, by the way, has worked better than I thought with Ant. Yeah. I didn't think it would work. I thought he was too ball-centric, and I think Ant needs the ball. But it has worked. Yeah. So I want you to talk about the Warriors and Jimmy Butler. Butler has a reputation that he's tough. Everywhere he goes, he wins. What is it about him? Did you think it would work as well as it did?
Yeah, I felt it would work. I did. I think, Jimmy's high basketball IQ. He fits their basketball culture. He doesn't need the ball. And when he has the ball, he's looking to make his teammates better.
He's very intentional.
Yeah, he's very intentional. He can get to the line, which is something that they struggled with, which helps you control games. And, he's a perfect partner alongside Draymond because of the defensive flexibility, the toughness, the rebounding. And he will immediately understand, as we've seen, how Steph plays and how to make, how to kind of jive with that, with the playmaking. He's just waiting to find Steph. He's a lot like Draymond in that way. But then when needed, he can step up and make a shot. And the admirable thing, not only does he win everywhere, his numbers go up in the playoffs, which you don't often
Unheard
see.
of.
Yeah. So, we're done with him for the season. For that, I'm glad. Hopefully we can keep him behind us in this race coming down the stretch, but they are going to be a problem.
So, and I like to ask you these macro league questions, and I'll get back to Ann Edwards at the end. But I thought J.J. Redick had a moment this week, and he said the quiet part out loud, which is we're going to run the offense through Luka. Mm-hmm. I think LeBron wanted to run the offense through AD, but he's not a playmaker. I thought when LeBron was in his prime, even Kyrie had to be off ball. LeBron was just the best player I'd ever seen. D. Wade relinquished it very quickly. 4 practices in, you run the offense. But I do think JJ touched on something that people haven't said out loud, which is, no, it's we'll save you for your spurts. From somebody who knows the game on such a micro level. LeBron's always been a fascinating player because you'd love for him to play off ball, but he's so damn good at beating people to the basket. How do you think Luka LeBron will look going forward, ideally? Because sometimes your greatest gift is a burden.
Mm-hmm.
And I think LeBron sometimes, he is the ecosystem.
Yeah.
It just has to run through him. But when JJ said that, I was like, man, he said the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
Do you think it's problematic? How do you think it'll look?
Well, I think sometimes when you're a coach, you have to say the quiet part out loud so there's clarity in your team, and it's not always comfortable. Luka's grown up playing with the ball in his hands his entire life, just as LeBron has, and the key will be how they divide those minutes, and they'll stagger them just enough so they all get their own usage. And I think we've seen early on when Luka tries to overly defer, that's when that's
not his game.
It's not his game, and he was turning it over, and he was a little bit uncomfortable. And I think that all comes from a good place. They're trying to accommodate each other right now. I think they'll all get to a point where they'll say, I got to be me. But I do believe that because they're both such exceptional passers, and they're wired to make the right play almost all the time. That's what I love and really admire about LeBron is that he makes the right play.
He always has.
If it's a cut, if it's a pass, if it's a drive or a run in transition, he's going to do it. And Luka's learned that too. When he gets doubled, he makes the right play all the time. He doesn't force it anymore. And I think that kind of mentality gives them the best chance to be really successful with each other.
I think the NBA has always been a players' league since Spencer Haywood, right? Like you can go back to where the players had a real say. I have no problem with it. And I like Adam Silver. I think he's very bright. He didn't want any more work stoppages. I think the money train is flying. But I do think sometimes he's a bit of a permissive parent. David Stern was a barker. He would not allow load management. This thing's gotten out of hand, in my opinion. The players now make so much money that they have so much control. And again, I'm not bothered by it. That's who we go to watch. But I think the All-Star game is a prime example. Stars don't want to play it, and there's nothing you can do. You have Ant. Ant is the most dynamic player in the league. Are there eggshells you have to walk on with a superstar player? They're not firing him if you go on a 4-game winning streak. Is it tough for you, Chris, knowing that you have one of the 4 seminal players in this league that people buy a ticket to watch?
Well, I mean, it's the reality of our league. Coaching is the ultimate middle management position in our league. So you have to have a relationship with these guys. You have to understand. Fortunately for Anthony, he's wired in the right way. He's highly coachable. He cares. He competes. He's about the right things. And, we all know that it's a players' league, and that's what's the beauty of it. And, of course, these guys are amazing, and people should come to watch them play all the time. I do feel that, with the All-Star game, it's kind of gotten to a point where everybody's scratching their head. They don't know how to make it better. For me, I would just lean into the fact that it's an incredible fan fest weekend. There's a lot at stake. I do think having been the coach last year, the players did show up with the mindset, or some of them showed up with the mindset to want to compete. But if you have half the players who don't want to compete and half that do, you don't have a chance to have a competitive game. So I do think they have to rethink that. Maybe they just kind of go away from the game even and just have more events with more player interactivity with the fans, which is really what people want.
Yeah. I think the NBA, I said this earlier, outside of the NFL, which is the English Premier League of the UK, is that everything's cyclical. I mean, boxing was huge. It's over. Mm-hmm. Tennis just had 3 extraordinary players all in their prime playing at the same time for 15 years. We'll never see that again. I mean, that you have to go back to Connors and McEnroe and Borg. And do you worry, though, the league is getting international to a point where, I guess I'll ask this. The league doesn't have a face of the league. Does it need one? Do you believe that would fix? Caitlin Clark, literally one player from Iowa, fixed a lot of the WNBA problems. I always say this in politics. The Democrats were lost. Obama showed up. Suddenly the conservatives were lost. Trump shows up. Now Democrats are The bottom line, sometimes a singular personality changes the direction of a political party, of a league. Pre-Magic and Bird, NBA was kind of a mess.
Yeah.
Like they had a drug problem. If I said to you, let's solve this ratings problem, Chris Finch, what do you think it is?
Yeah, I don't think it's a face of the league problem, Colin. I think there's a lot of good stars. There may not be a supernova out there right now just to drag the league along. I do think that the game is in a great place in terms of its competitiveness. Games like last night.
That looked like Game 7 of the Western Conference. You guys it was incredibly intense.
And you're never out of a game. These games are wild. The variance in the league with the 3-point shooting and the pace, and just kind of never out of the league right now. That one thing I've said about the All-Star game is, like, we see such great, spectacular plays from these guys going against each other every single night that you don't need to see it in an All-Star game. We see such amazing plays on a nightly basis. I do think there can be some thought into the schedule. I'm an advocate for less games.
Same.
Obviously, people are going to have to give up money to make that work. And for the betterment of the game, I think it's worth considering. I might not have a job when I walk off this set, but but I think that's a way to kind of increase not just maybe the participation of the league's best players on a nightly basis, but also to kind of draw focus to maybe 3 games a week as a nice rhythm. And we can look back and say, hey, what happened in the NBA this week? Because everybody's kind of played a bit of a balanced schedule. And I think that way we can highlight some of the great plays. Sometimes when there's so many games, we can't watch them all. We can't see it all. And it becomes, a little bit of white noise, if you will.
Right. So instead of asking you who's the best team in the league you've played, if I asked you, Chris, who would you not, either conference, who would you not want to play in a series?
Well, Cleveland kicked our tail twice. I think
their efficiency's insane.
Yeah, and they are complete. There's a lot of good teams in the league, right? The West is just loaded top to bottom. But teams that I've been super impressed with when I've walked away, of course, Boston is a very well-oiled machine. But I was interested in watching Cleveland up close and personal, and then I had to go through it twice, and I didn't really care for it. But they have it all. They have versatility. They have bigs. They have shot making. They have depth. They have defense. They have offense. And Kenny Atkinson's done an amazing job there.
All right, finally, let's play the Channing Frye bite. Now, J-Mac and I are on obvious opposite sides. He thinks Barkley's too hard. I'm like, listen, the bottom line is the audience likes it because he's giving you a strident opinion. I don't always agree with it. Clear shot, it appears to me, at Barkley. Inside the league, does Barkley bother the players?
I don't think so. No, I would say most people thoroughly enjoy that show. For what it is. It's part of the fabric of the NBA. It's irreverent. It's entertaining.
I think it's a comedy show.
They should have a disclaimer for entertainment purposes only. So, it's part of our league. It's baked into our league, and we love that. But I don't think it's bothered. There's some things here and there. I think it's gotten a little personal. It's added a little spice. I know in the playoffs last year when they had Draymond on and he was going at Rudy.
I thought Draymond was a little over the top.
Yeah, but it added some spice and it was fine. It all went away quickly, but no one's overly bothered by it.
Okay. J-Mac thinks it's the fall of the Roman Empire here. He just drives him crazy. I do think at some point, that's a great line. I consider it almost is Ernie is the ringmaster. Yeah. It's got almost a pro wrestling feel to it. They make sexual jokes. It's like there are certain shows that break all the rules. That's the show on TV that breaks all the rules. They swear. It's innuendos about relationships. They're calling certain women in certain cities overweight. I'm like, this is totally inappropriate, and it kind of works.
Yeah.
So and to your point, everybody kind of gets it.
Yeah.
It's great seeing you.
Yeah, appreciate it.
You got a technical like 3 weeks ago.
I did.
And you're not you don't bark a lot.
I bark a lot. Yeah, I just try to.
Did you drop was it a word?
Yeah, bozo.
Oh, you called him a bozo?
Yeah, bozo.
You called him Okay, I'm the referee. What'd you say?
I said, you're a bozo.
That's kind of what you would say, because you told me before and he just teed you up for that.
I think it was, I had been complaining for a lot.
Oh, you'd been complaining for a while.
Oh, yeah. So.
Did you drop a word before bozo?
Might have. Definitely after.
Great seeing you.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Chris Finch, off the craziest win NBA history last night, come back on the road and beat OKC. Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.